Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Full Press Hockey Weekly Show. I'm your host, Jim Behringer, alongside Chris Wassel. He fades to black, then he comes back.
You do.
Breaking news at the NHL this afternoon. Vladimir Tarasenko traded to the New York Rangers. In addition to Tarasenko, the Rangers get Nico Mikkola and Chris Drury. Well, he fleeced the St. Louis Blues, sending Sammy Blais, Hunter Skinner, and two
Skinner.
picks to St. Louis. One is a 2023 first round draft
Mm,
pick. The other is a conditional 2024
mm.
third round draft pick, which is going to be a 2023 third round draft pick because the Rangers are making the playoffs. But that was the news of the day. The arms race and the race to the NHL trade deadline. Chris, it's
Goes
on.
it goes through the tri-state area, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Apparently,
it does.
you're hey Tommy. Tommy, can you hear us?
Yo,
Yeah,
yo, Tommy, hello, Tommy, you there? Yeah,
this
trade
thing
for
on.
Timo Meyer.
Shoot, gonna have to do something apparently. But the bottom line is, look, Vladimir Tarasenko had Doug Armstrong and company by the fire, by the coal, over the cliff, whatever really cheesy cliche you want to use. And he was going to have to agree with basically whatever deal was going to go down. That's how what this came down to. And with the Islanders out or supposedly never really truly were in this even last year, even though there's debate
Uh,
on that. But again, Drury did what he had to do. Would I have acquired Vladimir Tarasenko given what's happened this year in St. Louis? Would I have done it given what's going on with the Russians on the New York Rangers right now? I don't know. But this is a all shot gamble for the Rangers because look, if Tarasenko regains his form from last year at even strength, this is a hell of a deal.
it
Period.
is it's a hell of a deal. I mean, even strength, power play. He's won a Stanley Cup. We know the numbers he put up in that Cup run in 2019 with the St. Louis Blues. Look at the numbers he put up last year, even with the trade request going back to 2021. Uh, last off seasons, multiple reports have out there that he was willing to move his no trade clause for three teams, all three metro area teams. He ends up going to the Rangers today, gets traded. He was willing to go there in the summer. He's willing to go to the Devils, the Islanders. Again, we don't know how much the Islanders were involved, but the Devils have definitely been interested in him for sure. The Rangers have been interested in him. And he makes their top six better. Let's be honest. He does. I mean, when you have Jimmy VC playing in your top six, that's not a good thing. You're not messing with the kid line because the kid line's just been performing so well lately. Filipino's got goals in five straight. Lafreniere starting to turn it around. Kako is playing unbelievable as well. And then you add him in there. Is he going to play with Panarin? All right, Panarin and him have history going back to the World Juniors 2011, the famous Buffalo World Juniors, Canada running away with the gold medal, and then all of a sudden Russia comes back. Those two guys were a big part of it. Kuznetsov was on that team too, I believe.
That was a crazy stacked team.
That was a crazy team.
But it was 5-1, Jim.
I know it was 5-1. Like I said, they were running away with it. Then all of a sudden, the Russians come back. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where he plays, where they put him. Obviously, like I said, they're not going to break that kid line up. Do you put Panarin and Tarasenko together? Where do you put Tarasenko? Does he play on the top line? Does he play with Kreider and Zibanejad? Again, there's so many options, but both are playing tomorrow night, Friday, against the Kraken. So is Nico Mikkola, which is probably, I want to say, underrated part of this trade because he's a big body defenseman that's kind of shores up their six, to be honest. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. At
in my
least, at least,
opinion.
at least, at the very worst, he provides great depth as a sixth/seventh defenseman, but he's more of a 5-6. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like
mean,
on that team at least.
to me, you get now a guy that can play with Keandre Miller, and now you have two pairs that you have Lindgren, stay-at-home guy with Fox, and you have Mikola with a Keandre Miller who also likes to move the puck as well. So you kind of have that balance out. You similar to what again the Devils did. When they had that kind of those runs to Stanley Cup finals and championships, and you balance guys out that are stay at home with puck moving defensemen. So I like that addition. I know he hasn't had great success this year in St. Louis, but he hasn't really fit in either. So I think they're betting on him going forward. And again, to me, the interesting part's going to be with does Tarasenko get an extension with this because we saw on the other side of town, out on the island when Horvat was acquired, the Islanders acquired him. They signed him to an extension, 8 years, 8.5. So again, does he test free agency? We know he wants to, but does he find the fit so good that he has to sign an extension?
And that we don't know. We really don't. Look, you got to remember he's 31. He came off several years of on and off shoulder issues. If he goes on a nice run in New York, does he think, well, I'm probably not going to get much better than here. This might be a good opportunity to win another Stanley Cup. Does he even take a little less to stay in an area where he's familiar with at least a couple players? He could take Kravtsov under his wing and maybe shield him from Gallant somehow. Whatever the case may be, and he can thrive in good old New York, New York.
New York, New York, baby. I mean, look, we've seen them come quickly, so you would have to imagine. I mean, Horvat didn't even play a game for the Islanders, and the extension was done. I mean, same
Yep.
goes for Pajot that one year at the trade deadline. He got traded, and then he signed the extension. I would think Tarasenko. I mean, if they go on a deep run and he puts up numbers, maybe he does decide to test free agency. I mean,
We
or
don't know.
or Panarin convince him, hey, sign a short term deal. This is how many years I have left on my contract. And stay here and we can be running buddies. Something like that. I mean,
Yep.
again, you don't want to go past a certain number because then you can't buy it out and it counts against your cap. So,
Yeah.
um,
The dreaded 35.
right.
The 35. Yeah, you don't want to get to that point where it's like, ooh, no.
Yeah, no, no, no,
So
no,
so
no.
so so here's the thing. For those wondering real quick, Panarin after this year, key point, after this year has 3 years left on his deal.
Okay.
That fits right under the window.
Yeah, I think that fits the window. It's not a bad play to maybe bet on yourself for a couple of years and then see what it's like after, and then get another contract. But this is a big move in the Metro Division. You had a team outside the playoffs who's now won 4 straight. By the way, the Islanders they won 2 straight before they made the trade for Horvat, and
Right.
now they've won 4 straight. Oh, by the way, they scored 4 goals the other night. Hit the over on the Islanders plus more than 2.
See,
So,
don't do it.
right. Uh,
Sometimes.
no. Does Shesterkin only have 2 years left on his deal, or does he have more?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Is it 2 or 2+? See that's like the technicality in it when you start looking at this, but he's not wrong. It
No,
is after this year. It's 2 years.
it's 2 years. So he's probably doing an extension. He'll get an extension, with the Rangers because he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, there's no way that they're even gonna toy with that. Because look, right now that contract is pretty darn friendly.
It is. It pretty is. It's really friendly, and to me, you look at it. Like I said, the Islanders they started all this thing in this Metro Division. Outside the bubble, won 2 straight. Then you went 2 more with Horvat. Oh, by the way, Horvat scored, the other night against Seattle, and he's fit right in. I mean, he's a great fit. You got Barzell's now on the wing. That again, logic and listening to this show. Yes, I credit us for that because again, it made the most sense. Now the Rangers make the move. I'm not gonna take all the credit. I like to share the wealth here. I'm a team player. But now the Rangers make the move. Yeah. And then and they make the move for Tarasenko and Mikola. Now all eyes turn to Tommy Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils and what they do, because the sense of it is Timo Meyer talks with San Jose have to be picking up with teams around the league now, because you have two big guns off a trade bait board.
Yep. And we kind of hinted at there was a possibility of having this like soft sort of fluid trade deadline and then having the firm March 3rd trade deadline. So what's basically happening right now is teams are tossing offers for Meyer. And if San Jose doesn't get what they want, they're just going to sit there and take it to 2nd or 3rd March. They have the control, as they say.
They do have the control, but you look at the Devils roster, you see the announcement today that Jack Hughes is out week to week with an upper body injury. The pressing need is to replace the scoring that's missed, and you're not going to replace a guy like Jack Hughes. You can't.
No.
But adding a Timo Meyer now would give the Devils an extra punch in that top 6 that's missing right now, especially if he's out for 2 weeks.
And that's the hope. You're really hoping that this is like a 2 to 3 week injury at this point. The schedule isn't great, but it isn't horrible. Yes, I know the Devils go on the road, but yeah,
they have winnable games over the next 2 weeks.
Well, except for maybe Saturday, because we think Minnesota's going to come out like a hornet's nest with a.
But the Devils don't really play well in Minnesota.
That it's hit or miss. They well, remember they won that one game that nobody watched.
Right, exactly.
That's always a classic. People like.
But, all right, so you go look over the next. All right, obviously Hughes is not going to play tonight against Seattle.
Out tonight. Not going.
He's
on the
not
road
going
trip.
on the road trip to Minnesota, Columbus, St. Louis, and Pittsburgh. They could the way New Jersey plays on the road, they could easily take 3 out of 4.
They could.
They could. Then you're home for Winnipeg, Montreal, LA, and Philadelphia.
Yeah. See, like home is a complete utter crapshoot. That's the problem with New Jersey. Unfortunately, we just don't know.
Right, we just don't know.
And then like we mentioned, you hope that by that little like road run where they go like 5 or 6 on the road, that they're back. That Hughes is back by then.
Right,
basically.
Exactly. You hope.
Yeah, that's all you can really do. The goofball part for those that don't know, the Devils do play on trade deadline night.
They do, but don't a lot of teams do, or is it just?
It's a real quirk in the schedule that has a lot of people a little irked.
Well, we can debate this another day. That I don't understand why we're having trade deadline on a Friday. That's a whole different discussion. But
it is.
But you have the Islanders and you have the Rangers making the move. The pressure is on Tom Fitzgerald to do something. I don't want to hear about this team status quo and keep the roster that you have because you have guys coming up. No. It's a year-to-year league. You had a 13-game winning streak. You're in a great position to make the playoffs. You have to pull the trigger on something to make this team better for the future.
Yeah, don't blow it. You don't want to blow it this year because you can put fans in the seats. You can do this without stunting development.
They have the prospects to give. They have the prospects to give away.
This is a team that is ranking in the top 5 among prospects in league wide. So it's not as if you're robbing. You're not making everything barren. You're not mortgaging the team. You still have it draws a couple parallels to what we saw with, say, maybe 2009 Chicago. Like the year
definitely
the year before, where it's like things started to kind of like it's coming together really quick, almost too quick, and they had like moments where, and look, Patrick Kane said it earlier in the season when they were in New Jersey, like those whoa moments, like whoa, this is going way fast, and the Devils have had a few of those moments, and they've adjusted.
Yeah, they definitely have adjusted, and you know what? They've passed a lot of tests this year. They definitely have on the road early. They've gone through Canada, swept a lot of
Mm-hmm.
big road trips, but there's definitely something missing from this Devils team. And now when you have your two Metro rivals do stuff, it makes you wonder, okay, what are they going to do? Obviously, they need a top six winger.
Mm-hmm.
But do they add depth like a Max Domi somewhere, or a Nick Schmaltz, or a Nick Bukestad, or guys like that can give you some oomph? Do you look on the back end to improve your defense a little bit as well? And what about goaltending? Do you can bring in an Anton Hudobin type that has had playoff experience because you're unsure of Mackenzie Blackwood?
Yeah, I mean, there's depth moves that can be made that won't affect bigger moves, and that's a luxury that most teams don't have that New Jersey does right now, and they still
Exactly.
won't. And it's still not like they're going to sit there and mortgage everything.
No,
Um,
because like we mentioned before, they have the prospects. Obviously, Nemec and Hughes are pretty much off limits, but
mhm.
everybody else, it's
It's
open
game
season to
on.
be. It's game
Yeah.
on. I mean, it's not. I mean, look. Do you give up on a guy like Alexander Holtz? We'll
If
see.
it,
This is going to be a
if it,
test run for him because Hughes is out of the lineup and he's in it.
yeah, this is showcase showdown time for Alexander Holtz.
Let's see what
We,
you're made of, kid.
I mean, is it a rough way to be thrown into something? Sure, but you know what? This is the NHL.
Got to play.
Hmm.
Got to see what you can do. And, he's definitely impressed at times. I know he needs to get better, but sitting in a press box, not playing doesn't get you better. But New Jersey
Mm-hmm.
definitely has the prospects to make things happen. And, it's interesting because, obviously they were on, they've been on like the Rangers. They were in on Patrick Kane. Everybody thought that was a logical um, fit for the Rangers, and it makes sense. The
Yeah.
Panarin Kane running buddies. Brandon, we'll get to that question because I like that
That's
question,
a
and
good one.
it's a real good one. But I want to just finish this thought real quick. So we have, um, Kane to the Rangers was pretty much all year, but then obviously from Emily Kaplan's reporting, the deal what Chicago was asking for was a little high. Kane's injury concerns, a big question mark, and according to Andy Strickland, Kane's been playing through some hip issues for the last couple seasons. So does that deter teams now from going after him because of the hip injury? Because Elliott brought this up. If he shuts it down, signs a 1 year contract with Chicago, we do this dance again next year, which isn't a bad play.
It's very possible. I mean, look, he's got to get healthy first, and you don't want to say it, especially with Patrick Kane, because you don't know what's really going on. But father, we always say it. Father time's undefeated,
Still
and
is.
he is 30. I can't believe Patrick Kane is 34. That's like one of those. It's like you take things like that for granted.
You do. You absolutely do. You take it for granted. Same with Sidney Crosby, Ovechkin, all those guys that been you like grew up watching. That
Mm,
it's just like wow, where did time go with this? But yeah, but Kane put up a lot of points the last couple of years, but he had
yeah.
players with him. Is he just not his mindset not there anymore? Chicago's rebuilding, all this stuff. It'll be interesting to see if he does get traded or he says no. I mean, a decision on Kane is and Taves are coming up. They said in a few weeks. They've been given lists of teams that are interested. Where do they wait? Again, both players have, like Tarasenko,
They've got to
have the
control.
ability to say no fully.
This is again, this is where it gets fun. I mean, not for us so much, but
No, but we can
um,
speculate where they can
but we
go.
yeah we can get the dartboard out.
Here,
Hmm.
here, here.
There,
But I
maybe.
think like with Tarasenko, I think there's foundations of you know, tampering is not allowed. We know that. Um, but I think if you're acquiring a player like this, foundations of an extension are probably in place, similar to say New Jersey acquires a guy like Meyer. I think the framework of an extension isn't in place.
Right, and I mean, look, we're not heartless people.
No,
We believe that there has to be some kind of latitude with this, to be honest. And it's not for some of us that's not a big deal. For
no.
some kind of point fingers at it and go, but you know what? That's part of how these deals have to get done. Look, the salary cap is what it is. It does hamstring teams. There's no doubts about it. And this is a way to have some kind of, not insurance, but a way of being able to move, negotiate, and facilitate. As look, we say it all the time, as Nick Alberga says it. Someone make a trade.
I'm buying that T-shirt, by the way.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, we need that on the show.
But so Braden, great point. Are
The
we
big
worried
one.
about the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Metro Division? Look, this was one of my biggest storylines for those at the beginning of the year. FullPressHockey.com, I wrote about it, and I think it's going to be another storyline next year. The question marks were around Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh. When was the run going to come to an end? Well, Boston is making a playoffs. That question mark. To me, the two teams were Washington and Pittsburgh. There were just so many question marks around it. Right now, because of games in hand, they sit in the final wild card spot. The Metro right now has 5 teams. The way the Islanders are playing, I'm not sold on Pittsburgh making the playoffs this year. I'm not. It's bite me in the butt before. It probably will again. The way they've been playing, no Tristan Jarry. I don't think he's back yet. I know Casey DeSmith's getting the start. Their goaltending is a problem.
Always has been.
Always has been. They needed to address it. I'm still not sold that Tristan Jarry is a playoff goalie. Ron Francis. Ron Hextall's missed his bottom sticks. Hasn't been great. He needs more. You and I have both harped on this. You needed to pick one or the other this offseason. I know everybody's like, oh, you could have brought the band back together. Yeah, that's fine, but the Raquel contract stinks. Your bottom six isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think you should have chose one or the other. Because the team is aging. I know they want to come and end their careers together, but this team is aging. They look slow at times. Their goaltending isn't good, and you just don't know what they can do going forward. And to be honest, Washington also has question marks. Goaltending, Kemper. When's Tom Wilson? He's in and out of the lineup. When's John Carlson coming back? Is Nick Backstrom 100% healthy? Hey, good on Dylan Strome. Good on Sonny Milano for getting those extensions. They deserve it. Hardworking guys, especially Strome. He's found a home. That's probably that's your 2C replacement for Backstrom. Great.
Mm-hmm.
We know Ovechkin's not going anywhere. This team still needs to improve too. There's spots for the taking. Look, Islanders not going away. Florida's making a charge. Buffalo's making a charge. We're going to see what happens. But I think those 2 wild card spots are not locked. I really don't.
No, they're not. Nothing's etched in stone with anything that happens, especially from that part of the Metropolitan Division. And then you have to look over at the Atlantic side and see what shakes out. Does Buffalo somehow play in on this with Meyer? I don't think they do. I think ultimately they kind of continue to stay the course a little bit.
They're building a nice foundation there.
Add some small parts, smartly.
Because Dylan Cousins gets an extension, Tage Thompson, Matthias Samuelson. They got Tuck there. They got a nice core group there. I don't know if you're messing with that apple card right now.
Yeah, it's crazy to believe. I mean, there's so much going on with both conferences, but particularly the East because of the dynamic of teams that you're used to seeing a little higher up in the standings that are battling for their playoff lives. And we can't lie. That adds a boatload of intrigue for everybody involved, except if you're a fan of one of those teams. That's just that's just a matter of, well, hockey.
It is. It's just hockey. I mean, you have to grind it out. This is where things get interesting. I mean, look, does Florida make a move? Is Pittsburgh going to add? I still believe if they can find a way to get a goaltender, maybe you can convince John Gibson to come home because I think he needs to get out of Anaheim. Anaheim's definitely going to be a seller. They have pieces. You got Shattenkirk, Klingberg, Adam Henrique. The list goes on of guys you can get out of there. Or did they go after like a Carl Vamelka? I mean, he could probably fit well in that system. That from Arizona to come over, I think that's a quality move for them if they make that move. Obviously another big name out there, Jacob Chikrin. Where does he go? I mean, look, L.A., Boston seems like either both is a fit. I think Boston, if they could figure out a way to get Jacob Chikrin and play him with McAvoy, then you have Lindholm on a second. That defense is unbeatable.
No, there's no doubt about it. Now, of course, obviously tonight, yeah. Finally, we get, man, I can't. It's weird to say this. There's a third of a season to go,
Yeah,
and this sucker cranks up from 1 to 10. This thing cranks up to like basically now a 15
yeah.
with the news in the last week. So now the inevitable question becomes not just who gets in, who gets out, but the consequences of who gets in and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for us, this is where it gets, this is meat, potatoes, and gravy time.
Yeah. I
It
mean,
really is.
clearly it is because clearly it looks like St. Louis is seller.
They've done this before though, where they kind of move laterally to set up for the next season.
Yeah,
So
I mean, but still,
but it has more of that look where you sit there and quantify them as more of a seller than anything else.
because O'Reilly, I know he wants to stay, extension, this and that, but teams could use his services. Obviously they got rid of Mikola, so what's Doug Armstrong going to do there? Colorado's getting their players back. So may not even make any moves, but I still think they need a second line center if they can figure out a way to make it work under the cap. Maybe they go acquire Gus Nyquist to add his money to LTIR. I mean, Vegas could do the same thing too. I mean, look, we haven't even touched on that. Vegas, Mark Stone is on LTIR. They could get another player, put him on LTIR. I mean, Gustav Nyquist is probably going to get traded to somebody that figures out a way to open up cap space. Lightning, Colorado, Toronto, Vegas. I mean, you know, if Colorado could figure out a way to get O'Reilly back, that would be crazy.
Look, there's a lot of things that have to happen before Joe Sacca can even get to that point.
Right, exactly.
We talked about them ad nauseum here, especially with the do you
go Nikita Kucherov?
Yeah, do you Kucherov the Landeskog here?
I mean, look, a lot of people say, oh, he's going to be back skating end of the month. Could be in the lineup next. If I'm Colorado, I think I'd be like, I hold him.
I'm considering it. I'm considering holding him.
And then if not, then I'm got to figure out a way to get a Gustav Nyquist from Columbus so I can figure out a way to add another player.
Yeah. They need to do something a little more, I wouldn't say stealth, but maybe a little more subtle this time around.
Exactly. Well, we know Vegas what they're going to do. They're going to try to go big game hunting because now they have money. They have found money. And it's no secret this owner wants to win and win now.
Yeah, they have to take a shot at it because, I mean, if they don't get somebody to at least replace Stone's production, they're not making the playoffs.
Or help Jack Eichel.
So do you have a shaman priest that can help Jobu regain his mojo?
Well, he's got to be hurt. I mean, to me, I think he's hurt.
I guess the question is what is ailing him as opposed to what isn't.
That's true because I agree. If they don't do anything, I think they miss the playoffs. The way that division is, the way that Colorado's charging, teams are charging. I mean, look,
Mm-hmm.
if Calgary can get their act together and Markstrom can get his act together, that team's dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that's another team can't finish games.
Nope,
And that's why a
just
lot
can't finish.
all these teams are on the proverbial bubble for a reason. And I'd even argue LA in its own way is kind of there too because they could fall backwards pretty quickly.
They could, yeah,
If
absolutely.
they're not careful. Look, yes, I know the standings say no, that can't happen, but they're not that far off. They only have 63 points.
Another fair question. I agree. I mean, look, I could be worried about Calgary. Jacob Markstrom, for the contract that he's signed, has not delivered in Calgary. Has
At all.
not delivered it at all. Look, their hands were tied with Goudreau and Kachuk. They had to move the players. Both were gone. Huberdeau needs another player to make him successful. Kadri, I think, has been fine since he's come in. I don't think that's an issue. The problem is goaltending. And I know it's a new system for a lot of these guys, but does that excuse go out the window that they're learning something new? Jacob Markstrom's the issue in Calgary right now. He can't stop the puck, and he needs
No.
to.
Yeah, it's not basically to put it in the nicest of way. It's not happening right now. I mean, look, let's put it this way. You are not going to win in the National Hockey League when your goaltender has an even strength save percentage under 900.
No, not happening.
And right now, he's at a career low. I can't even believe I'm saying this. 896.
It's
No
not
good.
good. No good. Especially for a team like Calgary who has expectations to make the playoffs and go deep. I mean, think about this. I mean, way Edmonton's charging and Colorado's charging. Obviously, Dallas, Winnipeg's playing well. Everything's so wide open right now, and so many teams can do so many things. But to put a bow on this whole thing is trade deadline. Yeah, it's March 3rd, but we know
Oh.
moves happen, and I think the dominoes are starting to fall into place to where we expect things to go. And I think, if not Vancouver making a move, I think the Sharks start this thing. I think it's going to be Timo Meyer and where he goes. Where does Brock Vesser go? Where does Luke Shen go? Where does Connor Garland go? And the list goes on and on. It started, okay? It's trade season. Everybody loves it. The product on the ice is back too. But now the teams in playoff position in contention are trying to figure out this market. And we see what the market's been set for some players. It's going to be interesting if they pass that point of diminishing returns, as you like to say.
At some
Because
point.
at some point, you can't hold out. Arizona can hold out as long as they want because Jacob Chikrin has a couple years left on his deal. So they can wait till the summer or next year to do it. Doesn't matter to them. They can hold on. Like Joe Sakic with Duchesne in 1 year. He can hold on as long as he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with a guy like Meyer, some other players, I think there's going to be a point where that diminishing returns kick in, and they're going to have to take the best offer that's out there.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where we're at right now. Kind of poking around with sources and everything else, and this is where it sometimes comes in handy to know people, and sometimes it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
what will often happen, and we say this, and hopefully they're not listening too much, and I get why they have to do what they have to do sometimes. We'll get information, and it's not that it'll be wrong. It's right at the time, but it's wrong later. Because things happen, things are moving at a speed that is different than what most people are used to when it comes to rumors. And we've said it many times. It's the old Doug Stolhan quote from Puck Podcast. 95%, 95 to 99% of the trades happen when everything drops dead silent. And look
It's
what happened.
true.
Look what happened today.
Exactly. I
The
mean, there was
hockey world stopped at about lunchtime this morning, very very suspiciously,
yeah.
and you didn't hear a peep for like about an hour and a
Uh,
half or so, give
boom.
or take, and then right around one, right around just before 1 o'clock, I'm like, hmm?
Hmm?
The phone starts to light up, and you start, you. I think it's funny. I had a couple Ranger beat guys ask me, "He's like, is there a trade?"
Oh, I had a couple people ask me today. I'm like, Easy. I'm working the phones here, bud. I'll let you know in a little
And,
bit."
and here's the thing, and for full disclosure, and we always say this, we're sitting there on the Full Press Hockey uh, Twitter feed this afternoon, and I always say this: yes, there is a trade. There is a trade in place. No, it has not happened yet. And the most obvious two reasons were the two reasons why the trade wasn't announced right away. One, Vladimir Tarasenko they had to
Say
bring it to
yes.
him, hey, do you want to do this deal or not? And then two, obviously the trade call. And that process sometimes, especially with social media and Twitter, gets muddled. We know that. And it stinks sometimes, and sometimes it's very useful because, hey, it helps us learn the parts of the deal probably a little bit better. And to be honest, as you're reporting on it, you sit there and go, well, who the heck is that guy? So it does give us time to backtrack and go, hey, well, let's cover our rears here and make sure we have the right parts to the deal, because sometimes that will change as well.
Absolutely. And by the way, Devils playing tonight against Seattle. Fans, uh, during the national anthem, I don't like people doing that, screaming, "We want Timo." So obviously, we know Devils fans how they feel about Timo Meyer and um, everything. So, but look, it's a complicated deal. Things needed to get done. That's why it wasn't announced right away. But the fact of the matter is that Vladimir Tarasenko heads to Broadway, playing with his buddy Artemi Panarin. The arms race is beginning. It's in the metro area, and to complete the trifecta, I think the Devils have to make a move and get Timo Meyer to New Jersey or somebody like him to help with their scoring, because you can't have your biggest rival across the way that's only 4 points behind you get that kind of move, and that could be the difference between home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs.
Because let's face it, if if you look at the way the standings are shaking out, guess who's playing each other first round?
Devils Rangers.
And what better way to, let's face it, show up your rival, and that, of course, is to beat them in the playoffs. I
Yep.
mean, look, this is the only way. This is the reality. This is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a here's the other part too, there is a considerable risk to this. We know inevitably that you're going to overpay to an extent to acquire a guy like Meyer. You're going to.
Right.
I mean, is it how much of an overpay is it? Just depends on when the trade gets made. You know,
Exactly.
when does the music stop, and as they either make makes the deal, or they wait a little and then they get caught a little bit with their hand in the bad part of the cookie jar and take a little less than what they have to. Look, no matter what was going to happen with this Tarasenko deal, they were going to get St. Louis is going to get less than market value. They knew this going in. It's how it was. There were only so many members on the dance floor. That's
That's what
that's
you have
that's
to get.
that's what you get what you can get, basically.
Exactly. You can get what you can get. And look, the Rangers were able to make a good deal for Tarasenko. Let's see if
Yeah.
They can sign him. Look, I hate doing trade grades. I hate all that stuff because only time will tell. Because now we look back on the Buffalo Ryan O'Reilly trade with Tage Thompson and say both teams won. So
Yeah.
um, you have to see what happens. But big news of the day: Vladimir Tarasenko to Broadway. We already know last week we saw what happened with Bo Horvat and the Islanders and the extension coming out of All Star Weekend. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight to the Full Press Hockey Weekly Show. Been your host, Jim Berenger, Chris Wassel. Find it iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, at Full Press NHL on Twitter, fullpresshockey.com, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We'll see you again real soon.